Good morning, everybody. I hope you're all doing fantastically well. My name is Conor McGilligan. This is One Leeds, and this is the Rumour Mill. Hello, all regulars. Hello, all newbies to the channel. We're back here with your daily Leeds United news. We weren't here yesterday. It's been sort of a belated birthday weekend. Apparently, that's what the kids call it nowadays, where you don't just have a birthday on the day. Apparently, it's before, after, and beyond. So thank you to the people who took me away over the weekend. But it was lovely. But then I had to reschedule everything. The hardline, the rumour mill, the things that really matter in our lives. So I can only apologise. It was out of my control, everybody. The hardline will be returning next week. We do obviously have a special couple of shows coming up this week as well, with it being the international breaks. Things that are a bit different as well. But we're starting off this evening with the return of your talk shows. It's Brownie. Brownie's back this evening with White Noise, everybody. If you fancy some bonus bits as well, head on over to the second channel, which I'm... are we not on? We're not on? Are we off? Mic. Phone mic. God. Hold on. Hey, but it's through your laptop. What the blooming hell's going on there? Hold on. We'll reconvene. Hold on a sec. Oh, yeah.
Better. That better. Sorry about that, everybody. That was a really good intro as well. Is that better? God, that was a really good intro. You know, there was no pauses there. We were going for a period of time. That seemed decent. Is that all right? Just let us know. Don't know why it was picking it up. We've got this secondary thing. But we're back here, I think. I think we're good. Let us know in the comments section. What a start. But I think we're all good now. It's showing that we're good. I think we are. Let us know and we'll get going with it again. Brilliant stuff. Sorry, guys. Apologies for that. But we are. Listen, you're supposed to get people in within the first 2 or 3 seconds as well to your videos. Or it might be 2 or 3 minutes, but flipping heck. I've just got all of you off now, haven't I? Not in that way. But yeah, welcome back to everybody. So apologies for that on Sunday night. We couldn't get that going, unfortunately, but we will be back next week. Okay. You could hear me through the intro. All good. Great. That's brilliant. You must have heard me just go, oh, that's a nice bit of coffee. Which is what I was saying on the intro as well. So good to see Matt in here. Good to see Uncle Tony Pony. Cedric's in here as well. Morning, Connor. I'm not surprised Bijol is unhappy. Great defender that deserves a bit more game time. However, we know Farke has his favourites. All good. Hey, Tommy. Hello, everybody. What's going on? Heard the intro fine. Sounds tinny, Connor. You must just be you must just be a little bit previous, Fred. So yeah. Get up to date, mate. Okay, let's get on to the latest news. Hi, Hannah. Hi, Johnny. Good to see you all in here. I do feel a bit fresh now. You know, I was away, as I said, I was away for the weekend, so sometimes you just need a little bit of a break, but we're back talking LUFC, and I says we're back here tonight as well with White Noise. So let's get on Jaka Bijol. Interesting, and we're going to bring Pascal into this. This is going to comprise of the discourse, discussion, debate, dialogue, however many D's you want to throw in there, very early this morning. I want to get your guys' thoughts in the comment section below. Jaka Bijol has been speaking to a keeper, which I believe is a publication in his homeland. He's mentioned about Leeds United. I understand the situation. After all, it's not like I don't know why it's like this. We started the season well. There was no reasons to make changes to the team. This is something that we all know with Jaka. Pascal's been starting. Joe's been starting. Overall, and we're going to talk about the halfway point, there's some statistics to bring to you guys, which is going to really probably give you a little bit of a boost, to be honest with you. It gave me a little bit of a boost this morning via The Athletic. But there's no need to make changes to the team. And he's quite right. You know, you can't really make changes to the team with what this team has really been doing, you know, throughout the season. So it's very difficult to point your finger on why, you know, Jaka previously that is, hasn't been starting. He said the season is long. Now the results have been a little worse in a recent period. Interesting. I hope my opportunity will come as soon as possible, but I certainly understand why the situation is like this, and I haven't played as much as I would like. But it's a little different for central defenders and goalkeepers than it is other players in the field. And he's quite right there. Normally you get defenders or goalkeepers playing 90 minutes. They don't just come off after 50 minutes, do you? Especially centre-backs. But I'm definitely ready for the opportunity when it comes sooner or later. I'm sure I'll take advantage of it. But for now, I'm very happy because our primary goal is to stay in the league. I want to be in the Premier League, if not this year, then next year, which is interesting. If not this year, then next year. But maybe I also wanted to get me out of my comfort zone because it's still at the highest level in football. Now I'm here and I'm not surprised the situation is the way it is. Of course, I'm not happy about it, but it is what it is. Let's move on. I'm definitely not happy about my teammates' mistakes because in the long run, they are bad for the team and consequently for me as well. So reading between the lines there, he's done a couple of interviews, hasn't he? Not where he's saying anything outlandish. He's not saying anything of which we're going, oh my God, Jaka Bijol, wow. If he's asked a question on international duty and he is one of the main men, obviously like he is for Slovenia, he's obviously going to come out and say that he's not happy with the minutes. This guy was bought as the statement defender. He was bought as a statement defender at Leeds United to bolster that back line amid rumours potentially that Pascal was going to move on. We were going to go to a back three. That hasn't happened. So Jaka doesn't seem happy there, if you are to read between the lines. But I'm not saying he's an unhappy player overall at Leeds United. I'm sure he's not happy with the situation, but that is very, as I say, situational. It's not a generalization. I'm sure him and Farke have been speaking and he knows he's going to get minutes at some stage. But yeah, it does make you think, you know, in the long run, we've seen sort of these patterns before with previous players who've been at Leeds United, and it might not have worked out for them when, you know, certain players are picked. They will normally remain. And it is very difficult to move out centre-backs. I think similarly maybe to that of goalkeepers, it's very difficult to move them out. Like, let's be brutally honest. It's moving a centre-back out is kind of like moving a goalkeeper out. You kind of want your centre-backs, you want your goalkeeper, you want them to build up that back five relationship throughout the season. You don't want to be chopping and changing. I also want to speak a little bit on Pascal. And do you know, I've been toing and froing with this, and this brings in Jaka. It really brings in Jaka. Phases do happen before a goal is conceded. Phases do happen before a goal is conceded. You know, you look at the Longstaff mistake that I felt he was at fault for as well during that Matthias Tell first goal. Ampadu losing the ball as well. So there's phases before that goal happened. And then everybody piles on the Pascal blame train. And I was probably one of those, but it's not the blame train for Pascal as such. It's more the sort of build-up of these kind of similar actions with Pascal. And it's all about just that closing down, the engagement, which needs to be quicker, the lack of jockeying. I get jockeying. I completely understand that. It's all premise of being a defender, not diving in too quickly. But I think he's way too respectful when it comes to that positioning. And that's kind of the problem I've got with Jaka. Pascal at this moment in time. And you know, with Jaka, he's a very, very aggressive engager. But what you do get with Jaka, and I think him and Pascal are very different defenders, is Jaka picks up a lot more yellow cards than what Pascal does. You know, he picks up he gives away a lot more free kicks. And that's because he engages quicker. So there's two sides to this. You jockey, and maybe don't engage quickly enough, but then maybe you see the other side of it where you jockey and the player makes a mistake, or there's another side of it where Jaka Bijol comes in and he comes fresh into, like, let's say the Burnley game, and when we're talking about maybe the Gyökeres situation or the Matthias Tell situation or the Kudus situation where maybe you get the engagement earlier when it comes to Jaka Bijol and he gives away a free kick and it's needless. You know, then that might happen 2 or 3 times during a game and they might profit from that. So there's different sides to it. I don't think ability-wise there's that much because I think Pascal Struijk's a brilliant defender. And I've always, this is why this channel isn't agenda-led. And yeah, I have favourite players, but if my favourite players are to do something of which I'm not a fan of, we will call them out on this channel. We don't have agendas. Pascal is one of my favourite players. But I do get a little bit sick of this lack of engagement sometimes. And I think he is a little bit respectful in that regard, or maybe he judges the situations poorly. I think his build-up from the back is excellent. I think it's very good. I think he's actually one of the best distributors in the team. But maybe it is that engagement, but maybe then it is just the Premier League. Let's hear what you guys are saying in the comment section below. Oh, let's see. Morning, guys. How you, Graham? How's it going? Hannah says Pascal's such a weak link. I'll tell you what, let's get a poll in on this one. You guys keep liking the videos. I'm really interested on this one because I'm kind of a bit where I am with it as well when it comes to Pascal and when it comes to Jaka and the situation there. But it's very interesting how people are quite dismissive now of Pascal. I don't think he's ever been the out-and-out favourite, but I think you guys are respectful and quite, you know, well, I know you're very smart when it comes to the football scene on why the scenario is what it is. So let's start a poll in here. Centre back for Burnley. Are you going with Jaka or are you going with Pascal? Let me know in the chat, everybody. Really interested in your thoughts on that one. Let me know. We'll come back to that in a little bit and see what you guys have to say. But yeah, I think, and let's get into a few comments as well, and we'll see what's going on. Leeds then says Struijk wasn't a favourite in the champ though. From Farke, he kept amping it centre back when Struijk got back fit. Exactly. So it's not that there's any sort of agenda there whatsoever. And it doesn't always need to be that in football. It's he just doesn't like that player. He's got an agenda. It doesn't have to be that in football. It can just be the fact that, meritocracy, that first game, Pascal was decent. Yeah, Bijol will take care of Bowen better than Pascal. Don't read too much into it, Connor. Into what, mate? No, just reading out the news. Morning all. I'm not a big fan of Bijol, Connor. Good time to rotate in the next two fixtures. I'm a big fan of Bijol, Connor. Rotate the next two fixtures, like the NFL, rotate the reps and keep the two fresh games coming. Interesting, man. Isn't Bijol right-footed as well? Indeed. How's it all going? Good, mate. Oh, that is a fact of Convalescing. I don't know why I couldn't read that. It's too early, mate. After a knee up, how's it going, Connor? All good, mate. Hope your knee's getting better. Remy says it's easy for me. If we're going to dominate possession, it's Pascal. If we're under the cosh, it's Jaka. And that's why it's probably quite difficult right now. But Jaka is not a bad builder up from the back, but he's got one of the highest clearance rates in Europe as well last season. So they're two very different players in regards to what their ultimate benefit is. So I guess it depends on what's going on in Farke's mind. Okay, let's touch on this guy, Lorenzo Pellegrini. Peter Roque has said in the latest edition of the Football Insider Track podcast, the Whites are strongly considering stepping up their pursuit of the Italian. The 29-year-old attacking midfielder has been in and out of the Roma squad, which suggests that the club remain unsure about his long-term future, with the contract expiring at the end of the season. Pete says, potentially, if Lorenzo Pellegrini was on Leeds United's list previously, I'm sure they'll continue to monitor his situation at Roma. Leon Bailey is also going to be joining Roma at the end of the season, which adds another attacking body to their front line. On top of that, it looks like he could be available for around 10 million quid if a club wants to go in and acquire his services. So I think that'd be a really top pickup from Leeds. I think it'd be a top pickup. I think maybe the only thing I'd look at with Lorenzo is maybe his athleticism. Could that acclimatise to the Premier League? I think, though, I've said this to you guys multiple times, I think physicality is big. Athleticism is big. Of course, it is in the Premier League. And Pellegrini does comprise that as well. It's not like he's a small, technical, diminutive player. He does have that side of his game as well. What I will say, though, is I don't want to overemphasize, and I think this is a topic that I'm going to bring up in just a second. I don't want to over-inflate the reliance on just athleticism and physicality. And I think maybe we're kind of getting to that point now with Leeds United in a sense, where there is maybe like an over dialed in mindset on purely athleticism and physicality. You need quality at the end of that. You have to have that. And I think that's what Leeds are missing at this moment in time. Lorenzo Pellegrini is one of those players. Something to keep an eye on there. Okay, I wanted also to talk about Sean Longstaff, and we'll just get to Sean, who's going to be right at the end of this. So this is quite interesting. Now, The Athletic have done a piece this morning, and they've said that out of 155 of the new signings that have come into, transferred over the Premier League, in the Premier League, come into the Premier League as well, Sean Longstaff has been rated the 5th best new signing. Now, is that right? I mean, The Athletic have highlighted his set-piece ability, which is obviously a new thing, which has been excellent over the last 2 games. And his tackling this season, they've said, quote, he's massively exceeded expectations and has become the figurehead of the Leeds side. Got a goal and an assist against Bournemouth. He's brought stability and dynamism in the midfield, plus offers good set-piece deliveries, and he suits a Leeds physical approach. The second best tackler in the league so far with 15-1. Very good. Now, I guess when you rack up that comment, if you rack up those, you're saying it's not been bad, has it, for 12 million quid? And I think at the very beginning of the season, I thought he'd be a little bit of a runner. I thought he'd be a runner in this Leeds side. I think maybe you saw at the weekend that still technically there's a player there that isn't, I don't think, ridiculously good. I think he's a good player. I think there's things that Sean is very decent at. We were just speaking before about the technical level and maybe not focusing too much on the athleticism and the physicality. I think that is disrespectful to Sean because I think he has the former two attributes. But I also think, and what surprised me, is maybe the technical level that he's got as well, which is really good to see. But the second best tackler in the league, I didn't expect him to be that high, but I thought with the approach that Leeds have to take in the Premier League and bringing someone like Sean Longstaff in, and if you are keeping Tanaka out, which we spoke about on One Leeds was probably going to be a scenario at the very beginning of the season, you kind of want him to be on that angle in terms of, tackling, interceptions, just being perceptive in that midfield to where the ball's going to drop as well, being that secondary foil for Dominic Calvert-Lewin winning those first headers. And he's been, I think the technical level of him has been really good as well, to see the set piece deliveries, of which have been absolutely outstanding. Really, really good in 2 games. And I didn't realize he was the second best tackler in the league, which is great news. And obviously he's got his, he's got a few contributions as well. It's funny as well, at the weekend against Spurs, I thought he should have scored again. So you kind of get into a scenario where you may be seeing Sean Longstaff as the most forward Leeds player at points as well, maybe even ahead of Anton Stach. And we'll get it in the poll again, everybody, and we'll see what you guys said about Jaka or Pascal as well. But what are your thoughts on Sean Longstaff? Do you think he has been, I don't know, almost like the player of the season so far? Let us know in the comment section below if you do. Let's whack this in as a poll. We're all polled up this morning, everybody. But yeah, I think it's really good to see the Athletic maybe mention that and mention Sean in there. And I would say that. I would say it's not been far off. He's not been far off one of the better players for Leeds United this season. 75% of you have said Jaka comes in for Burnley. Wow, that is a landslide. That is a landslide. So, yeah, we'll get it in the comment section below. We'll say it. We'll get a poll in there. Sean Longstaff. We'll put expected. I know there's Kershaw on here. He'll say like he expected it. Expected, or would you say beyond expectations? Sean Longstaff. Get it in the comment section below, everybody. Because now I think we're looking at a scenario where Sean effectively is one of the first names on the team sheet, which is great. It's fantastic, isn't it? But it's definitely something I maybe didn't expect. I thought it'd be to and fro with Tanaka a lot more. Love Sean, and he's undroppable, but he ain't the top 5. Goodmanson, I'd argue, has been the best signing. Longstaff has been one of the best players this season. From a bottom half Premier League side, Longstaff is perfect. I guess as well, there's what's really impressive with him is for Newcastle, he wasn't getting that many minutes. He was behind Joe Willock. So you've got Bruno Guimaraes, you've got Joe Linton, you've got Sandro Tonali, you've probably got Lewis Miley ahead of him as well. So he's 6th choice Newcastle player in that midfield. So to come in and be starting week in, week out and to show that level of performance, I think it's impressive. Like Longstaff, hard worker. Goodmanson, top player so far. Yeah, it looks like a lot of you guys are saying the same. The Jaka couldn't handle a bunch of kids, and Pascal has handled the setup. Simon, I'd back on that. I think that is quite redundant, if I'm being honest with you, mate. I think neither could Okafor, but Okafor has been given a chance. That's the whole point here. Okafor was terrible against Sheffield Wednesday. They were all terrible. Bornau was terrible against Sheffield Wednesday. They all were. DCL was rubbish against Sheffield Wednesday. The conversation here is that they've then been given the chance. They've then been given the chance to go and prove that wrong, right? And Jaka obviously hasn't. So we know what Farke's like. Is Jaka a Farke signing or a 49er signing? Definitely. Sean of Longstaffshire has been excellent. Covers every blade of grass. Another leader on the pitch. A threat on goal. Arriving late to the box. And a set-piece delivery has been a pleasant surprise. Yeah, so we'll have a quick look at the poll. What everybody's saying here as well when it comes to beyond expectations, got 60%. And expected has got 40% as well. Good to see that. Yeah, I think for me, Gabby is my favourite as well, John. I think Gabby's been my favourite. I think, you're looking at some of the best players in world football out wide. And I guess this is something you can attribute to Pascal as well. Going up against Mohamed Kudus, going up against the players that they're going to have to go up against, Adama Traore for Gabby, etc. Going up against these players is going to be a task. And I think he's acclimatised really well, especially with the level of opposition that we've come up against. Okay. So let's talk about the next little bit of conversation as well. And it is about chances created. It's about Daniel Farke. It's about the adaptation. It's about maybe the pragmatism. And I guess it's the conversation again of have you been... I mean, where do we lie in the table now? So I think let's have a look at live score because the table just below us there isn't updating quickly enough. But I think we are 15th. Let's have a quick look. You guys will tell me anyway. Premier League, I'm sure Leeds are 15th. So that, yeah. So, yeah, Leeds are 15th. Okay. So we are 4 points off Burnley, who are in 18th. And obviously that's, we've got a superior goal difference. Let's have a look. GD. We've got superior goal difference. So it's a big game, isn't it? It's a big game. And I wanted to bring up as well, everybody, the fixture difficulty. So we've got loads of things going on here, but when it comes to the fixture difficulty that Leeds have got coming up, Leeds have actually got the second easiest, according to Opta statistics. We'll get the graphics up for you guys now. According to Opta, Leeds United have the second easiest fixture list coming up in the next 5 games. So from Leeds being at a stage of which we're saying, look, I mean, this isn't fair. We're talking about Sunderland, weren't we? And we're talking about, the difference in Sunderland compared to Leeds United and this, that, and the other. Sunderland have they've got the easy fixtures and Leeds have got the hard fixtures. I think this is, I guess, the flip side of the coin where the pressure is different now. And it's something that caught my eye this morning. Let me just find it, everybody, so I can just whack it up here. Where are we? There we go. Okay. So these are the Opta statistics for the next 5 games when it comes to Leeds United. So there we go. We'll just stick that in front of the graphic there. So easiest is at the bottom. And this was obviously including Tottenham. And the hardest was at the top. Now, I guess the good thing here is maybe some of our rivals, you look at Sunderland, they're obviously a little bit higher. They're right the way up to the top now, aren't they? Which is where Leeds were at the very beginning. You can throw in Aston Villa there if you want down at the bottom, but the big one as well is Brentford. Brentford are the big ones because obviously I know there's a lot of people who think Brentford can be dragged down there. And this is kind of the period now where you're looking at it and thinking, right, Brentford can be dragged down there. Especially if Leeds are to pick up wins. And I guess the interesting thing about when you're looking at this is with this graphic, Burnley look like they've got a half decent run, although I do look at that and still think it's a bit tough. But they've got Villa in there, they've got Leeds by there. Obviously, they lost to Villa, didn't they? But they've got Leeds. It's very confusing this because it's 4, not 5. But Leeds, Wolves, Arsenal, which they'll probably chalk off, and West Ham. They're fixtures of which they've got to target as wins, really. Leeds, very similarly. Burnley, West Ham, and then we've got like Brighton, and then I believe it's Nottingham Forest, which is interesting because you kind of look at those last 2 games and you think they're tough games. But comparatively, where these teams are, effectiveness wise, but also when you're looking at the other teams in the division, they still deem, Brighton and Nottingham Forest, especially at this moment in time, as decent fixtures for Leeds. So Leeds and Wolves, interesting as well. Wolves, because we kind of want them to stay down there with their difficulty rating. Yeah, big sort of 4 games for Leeds United, in my opinion. But I wanted to talk about Daniel Farke. Leeds have created the 4th highest amount of chances in the Premier League. And I think what he's doing now is, I thought it was interesting at the weekend how, Leeds out of possession dropping into a 4-5-1 in possession. We're doing that thing that we've seen before where it's effective for like a 3-1-6 or a 3-6-1. But obviously pushing the wingers a little bit higher. But I think what we're seeing is a little bit of adaptability from him. I think there's a 4-3-3 in there now, which they're getting the balls in around Dominic Calvert-Lewin. There's a more direct play. I think that direct play has been facilitated by Carl Darlow as well, because Darlow, I think, is a better kicker than Perry. I think Perry is probably a better, well, no, he is. He's a better goalkeeper overall. But I think when you look at Darlow is a better kicker of the ball. I think we've seen that even in the games that Darlow's been playing in comparison to the limited amount, we have to say, of Perry. But obviously Perry's more about the throwing, isn't he? Not the kicking. But I think there has been adaptability with Daniel Farke. I think he's done a really decent job so far. And I think, Joe Donahue put out a tweet the other day saying Leeds pressing the final third has been particularly impressive, despite general and standoffish. One of the Premier League's best at winning the ball back and producing shooting opportunities from it. That's on Farke. The finishing isn't. Now, I'd push back on Joe a little bit there because systematically, 100%, it is on Farke and he's adapted there. I think what I would say is, if not when Nonto is available, in terms of maybe the effectiveness in that final third, because we're winning that ball back high, aren't we? We're winning that ball back in the final third, which is brilliant. We're setting up in a good shape. But in the final third, I think Aronson has been a lot better than I thought. And I think in this system, it kind of helps as a decoy when he's inverting a lot, obviously, and getting Leeds free kicks in the opposition half, which is really important in terms of slowing the game down or picking it up, because Leeds are trying to rely on these set pieces as well to conjure goals. So I think that's important with Brendan Harrison, and he inverts, so it's a decoy for Bogle to go on the overlap as well. So that's important. So I think, Harrison's been a facilitator in his own right as well. But what I would say is, you kind of want to stay away from being Jesse Marshy in saying, Jesse Marsh's whole thing was performances over points, wasn't it? Marsh would always look at the analytics and say, XG and XGA, we're at this rate and we should have scored this amount. And the reason, Marsh used to say that is because he can control that. He can control how the team's set up, but he can't control what's happening on the pitch. Selection-wise, Farke will be able to do that when Nonso is back, and he has a selection of having Nonso, Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Okafor going forward. So with what I agree with Joe to a certain level, but I kind of think that with Farke's done really well, but I think there's a balancing act here. Systematically, pragmatically, adaptability-wise, he's done really well, and it's surprised me, to be honest with you. But what I would say is when Nonso comes back, we know Nonso is just a more clinical finisher. Me and Gabe were having this debate last weekend on the hard line, and Gabe was saying there's nothing much between them. I completely disagree. And he was harking back to the statistics last season. Brendan Harrison started nearly every single game last season. Willie Nonso started 26 and still got more goals and goal contributions overall than Brendan Harrison. So that tells me he's more effective in the final third. And I think the eye test gives it away as well. So what I'd like to see is a combination of that three going forward for Leeds United. And then you can look at Daniel Farke, and hopefully if there's a general spread of effectiveness, you're saying, well, he's starting his best players and also the system is really benefiting Leeds United. So that's kind of where we're at there. What do you guys think on that one? Let us know in the comment section below. Slap a like on the video as well. Do us a favor, everyone. Like Longstaff, he's a hard worker. I think we're talking about goodness in there as well. Hit a like and subscribe. Yeah, exactly. Gary, thanks so much, mate. And guys, make sure you do that. Really appreciate it. As I say, the YouTube algorithm is changed over the past sort of 2 to 3 weeks, so it's really impressive if you guys can just do that for me. Really appreciate it. What are you drinking, Con? I've got a coffee this morning, mate. Lee says to stop up, Leeds have to beat Burnley and Sunderland home and away to stand a chance of staying up. Len says it's fine at the moment to lose to Burnley. Ooh, I'm fine at the moment. Oh, sorry. I read that wrong. I'm fine at the moment. Lose to Burnley and all change. Feels similar to the situation going into Wolves. And I hope we get the same result. The Leeds line says as well, only Arsenal and Newcastle have conceded less big chances than Leeds too. Chris says, according to XG points, we should be 10th. That sounds very marsh of you, Chris. We played really well and just been unlucky. If we can get the rub of the green, I believe we can pull away from the teams at the bottom. I think how I'm looking at it as well is if you get to I've said this from the very start, if you get to a stage with Leeds United where we are in touch, right, and it's hard to say this without sounding defeatist, but we have to be within, and we're showing right now that we're going to be within touching distance of staying up, of course, but by January, they still have to go out and get players. They still do. 100%. They still have to go and get players. And what worries me a little bit, and let me know, do you guys think this as well, is I think if by January we're like 14th, and let's say we've got like a 5-6 point difference, I don't think they'll go and buy players. That's what worries me a little bit. They have to go and buy players. Have to. We've seen this before, even with the 49ers to an extent. I thought it was okay last season, not doing anything in January. I thought the squad was good enough, so it's completely different context. But they could have helped a little bit more in January by pushing Leeds over the edge to promotion. They could have done that, and they didn't. I'm really hoping we don't get to any stage really in January, and for them to think, nah, we're not going to do it. We're good enough. I really hope, because I think there's been so much from Farke's adaptability to the players stepping up, crowd been excellent. There's intangibles, but quantitative basis as well. It goes to and fro really with that of how good Leeds have been this season. And we're 15th, I get that. But, we're still 4 points clear of relegation, got a good goal difference, got some good games coming up, and we've had a really tough start. So now we've got a better next 5 games. Can we rack up some points? 7, 8 points in that, and we're absolutely laughing. We're at a really good point, and we can revisit this. But still, even if we do that, even if we rack up 7, 8, 9 points, whatever, I think however good it is, because however bad it is, it's obvious that you then need to go and get players to come in. But I think there's been so many situations where Leeds United have maybe judged the situation poorly, especially at Premier League level. The one that sticks out is when we beat Liverpool, we beat Bournemouth, and they were going to sack Marsh before that, but then they didn't. Obviously, it's not the 49ers, but they were there. They were going to sack Marsh, but they didn't. And by doing that, that was just the worst decision ever. So they've got to really go out and be aggressive in that January transfer window, whatever happens. Connor, it's getting harder to like YouTube channels, seeing people watch shows on TV, not on my phone, laptop, etc. You can still like it on your, you still be able to like it on your TV, mate. You just literally press it. There's the timeline. You go up and there's a thumbs up. You just press that, buddy. You just need to make sure you've got an account. Nonto in, Aronson out. I'd agree with that. Keep a tabs on Jaden Anthony against Burnley, and we should get a result. Len says it would have been better with no Jan, to be honest, and everyone else will have money. We'll be doing loans with obligations or options. It might work, but I feel our opposition will strengthen more than us. Anthony's in here as well. I'm off to Burnley away. Already, you know what, in it. Kind of place you only go enjoying if you're getting a win. It feels massive. It does feel massive already, mate. I really hope with our past experiences in January, we could sign a couple forward and a number 10. Okay, so Bryn Law has mentioned as well that Anton Stach played with a broken finger. But now Bryn Law has information that during commentary of the 2-1 defeat to Tottenham, he explained that Anton Stach has a broken finger for the reason that he strapped it, obviously, at the weekend. Law said it's the little finger on Stach's right hand after a foul by Mohamed Kudus on the back of his feet. Still got that bandage on his right hand as Anton Stach, that broken little finger, which is interesting. Goodness me, I hope he's all right. As well, guys, I wanted to touch on Premier League managers and just the level of we'll touch on Joe Rodon first. Craig Bellamy was speaking around about, I think it's during this international break. So it was in around the last sort of couple of days and speaking about how brilliant Joe Rodon has been. And I think he's just been so good. And he's developed massively as a player since the start of when he was at Leeds. I think he's hugely, hugely developed since that point. I think he's become a proper Premier League mainstay now. He's young when he went to Tottenham, and that's what Bellamy was saying in a press conference. But he's really developed into a top player at Premier League level now, a Premier League player. And he was mentioning that Vincent Kompany apparently is a massive fan of Joe Rodon, a real big fan of Joe Rodon. And apparently there was massive interest from Vincent Kompany's Burnley, who Craig Bellamy was there as well, in Joe Rodon, obviously when he was at Spurs. But I think it's a really big compliment. I wanted to bring it up this morning because obviously Vincent Kompany is one of the best centre-backs we've ever seen at Premier League level. And apparently Bellamy was saying in his press conference that Kompany was always so impressed by Joe Rodon, wanted to go get him, loved his style of play. And I think it's just testament. I wanted to mention it this morning because, we talk about news and all that sort of stuff, but I think it's impressive when you're talking about a player and one of the best players ever at top level is keeping tabs on you. And you wonder how much Joe can develop. He's 27 years of age now. He's in the prime of his career. But, could there be, maybe at some stage a Vincent Kompany and Joe Rodon meet up when it comes to managerial and player? Who knows? But I think it's just testament to how good he was. I thought he was brilliant at the weekend again. I love the fact that now he's becoming more of a threat in the box as well. That's probably down to Sean Longstaff as well. And but also, when we're talking about Premier League managers, I put in the title Arteta, I put in the title Eddie Howe, I've put in the title Thomas Frank. Thomas Frank was so complimentary of Leeds at the weekend, so complimentary of how physical we were, how good they were. He mentioned the XG as well. Arteta did the same, said how good Leeds were, and obviously they smacked us about, and we didn't set up for that game in the right way. But he did say that he believes Leeds will stay up. Eddie Howe said that, at points they couldn't deal with Leeds' physicality and athleticism in that midfield. And it kind of makes you think, how other teams are looking at Leeds right now. And a lot of these teams, a lot of the analysts look at the data behind it. And if Leeds are doing what they're doing on XG against, chances created, running, tackling, you do think to yourself, and obviously the manager's adapting, which is great. I am really positive about it at this moment in time. I thought when we probably got to this international break, we'd be in a bit of trouble. I did. I thought the investment, I thought recruitment was poor. I wondered about Farke and if he'd be able to adapt. But I've seen these things and I'm impressed by these things. So it's all looking pretty hunky-dory at this moment in time when it comes to Leeds United. We've got a long way to go. We've got a few very tough fixtures coming up, but I think the compliments from other managers as well. A lot of people are comparing us to Ipswich of last season because Ipswich were narrowly losing. I think we've got a lot more grit. I think we've got a lot more quality, calibre as well on top of that. And I think we've just got a better playing style than what Ipswich had. So yeah, and obviously, you look at Ipswich going into it, and as Kershaw used to say on these shows, Premier League experience, Leeds have got more of that, which is important. Connie, you mentioned that if Leeds get to 11 points or more within 10 matches, it points to possible survival. Leeds have 2 matches to achieve that. Sunderland achieved that feat within 7 games. Once again, important, Michael, and they've got 2 games to do that, and they should do that, really. If you're looking at Burnley and you're looking at West Ham, you've got to be targeting 2 wins. And I'm sure you don't go into any game, people are to be pernickety about my language. You don't go into any game and think, we're not going to win that game. We don't target that game. And I'm sure they're not doing that either. But these are games that you've got to win. I know West Ham's going to be hard. I know Burnley's going to be hard. Burnley's record at Turf Moor still stands. Oh, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't, because they got beat, didn't they, by Liverpool last minute. But, they've got a very good record at Turf Moor as well. Probably very similar to what ours was at Ellen Road. That is not going to be an easy game whatsoever. Burnley away is not going to be an easy game as Sunderland and Nottingham Forest. So, but every game at this level's tough. Every game at this level's tough. So, but yeah, we've got to go there. And obviously with the points tally that Leeds are on right now, 8 points, isn't it? Or is it 7 points? No, it's 8 points. You've got to go and get those 2, 100%, or 3. Minimum 3 points, I think, or minimum 4 points, actually. So really important. Clark says we just need to take these chances away. As simple as it sounds, be totally Leeds going down to highest XG. That's why I keep talking about Clark. That's why I keep talking about Nonto, because Nonto right now is really the only ace card we can play when it comes to XG and effectiveness and goal scoring. A goal scoring front player at this moment in time who hasn't had that many minutes. He's not played a full 90 at Premier League level. We're not seeing him with Okafor and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And this is why I was pushing back on what Gabe was saying, because there's so much more context to be applied to Nonto. He just doesn't like what the perception of Nonto is, because he doesn't think that Nonto's hit that potential, but that is an expectation that him himself has put on Nonto, and has seen, about the trajectory and potential of the player. Nonto is still only, 21, 22. I am fully believing that at some stage he's going to be really important for Leeds going forward this season. And I have to see that front line, because I think there's a much more technical level to that front line. You look at Dominic Calvert-Lewin's front lines that he was playing with at, Everton at stages as well, Dwight McNeil and Jack Harrison on either side. So you can see why, but not just that, some of the production out wide for Everton has been shocking, and that's why they've been some of the lowest scorers. So you actually get real quality in random. I think Okafor's improving game by game. Nonto there as well. Someone who technically is just a better player than Brendan Harrison. Brendan Harrison helps in other ways, but technically and going forward, Nonto's just a better player. I think that's the eye test is there for us all to see there. So yeah, Con on my screen and a newborn in the arms. I don't know what's screaming more, mate, the kid or me. Cheers, Jam, and I hope everything's going all right on that side, mate. Iriolo was very complimentary. Bournemouth, renowned for their physicality, couldn't deal with our running power. 100%, mate. They were. Samantha says could have been 3-1 Saturday before they scored. Yeah. Connor, the Leeds forwards, Mecha, Peru, and DCL. Who was the better XG? I'm not sure, mate. But once again, you've got to put that on minutes played, haven't you? You've got to put that on minutes played. It was interesting to see Peru going in there as well as I thought the other day is almost that number 10. Wonder if we see that a little bit more going forward. Guys, do us a favour. Before you leave, slap a like on the video. I have just got a notification from Brownie that he has been pulled for a game. Annoying. But he's just been, this is what we have to do with Brownie, because he is a coach at Sheffield Wednesday. He's got a game tonight. So what we'll do is we'll do a pre-record. We'll do a pre-record and we will release it this evening. Okay, so that's what we'll do. We'll get on there probably in the next hour or so, do a pre-record. So keep your notification bell switched on if you want to see that. It'll be edited a little bit more for tonight. Knox, you've just missed it, mate, but go back to the start and ignore the tinny start, mate. But yeah, go and have a look at that, bud. But yeah, we will be releasing the White Noise as a pre-record later on, everybody. Apologies for that. I'd love to do it live, but at least you still get the full content. So my name's Conor McGilligan. It's been an absolute pleasure. I will see you live tomorrow morning with the Room Mill, everybody. As always, make sure you're there. 10 a.m. start every single morning, everybody. I want to see all the regulars and all of you guys there as well. It's an absolute pleasure.